Like saying,
please transpose until you get better.
Say no to drugs.
No to drugs. You bet I'm going to put some of this up in there.
And so, I came up, I started at 17 playing in the church, but I also started around that same time playing jazz. And so I went to school and doing jazz. And in that world, that's regular. The singer come up and say, I want to do this song in this key. 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's it.
And no questions asked.
Play. And you're on a piano. There's no you gotta play. Right.
Yeah.
And you work, you figure it out and work your way through it.
For reading hymns, like I'll get a hymn that I don't know and they want me to sing in another key. So I'll use Corey's trick of, okay, if the song's in G, there's the 4, there's the 5 in that hymn. So I memorize, because I read. So I memorize where the 4 and 5s and 2s are. Yeah. And then I'm still technically cheating because I'm doing it by ear.
Yeah.
But I'm reading the scope, but I'm not really reading, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I do it.
Well, I would just add that on the other side, so Sean's going to argue the far left, the far right.
We gotta
is that I think we should raise this our own personal standard, and that's not a shot at anybody. Like if you struggle with this, I'm saying like, so for me, every time I got embarrassed because I couldn't play a song in another key that got changed on me, it was saying to me it was like, well then I got to do better. I need to be able to play these complex songs, and so I came up. I started at 17 playing in the church, but I also started around that same time playing jazz. And so I went to school and doing jazz. And in that world, that's regular. The singer come up and say, I want to do this song in this key. 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's it.
And no questions asked.
Play. And you're on a piano. There's no you gotta play, right? Yeah. And you work, you figure it out and work your way through it. And even now, I've had worship leaders come, like literally the day of, and like, hey Corey, it just happened. We just did what's that song? J.J. Harrison. Who has the final say? Jehovah has the final. I think it starts in B flat and goes to B. But we had to do it in A because the singer she was struggling that day, so we had to do it in A. And I was like either I can back away from this and be like, or I can take the route of transposing, which is the easier route, or I can say, you know what, I'm gonna do this thing. Let's go. You want to do it there? Let's do it then, and let's make it happen. And I take that personal challenge, and that makes me grow. And our ethos is all about helping musicians improve. So I want to help you get better. And so taking the challenge makes you better. Not if you step back from the challenge, you don't grow. It's going to ultimately hurt you.
Got to step outside your comfort zone if you want to grow.
Mm-hmm. Usually conflict. Sorry.
No. I was saying, but we gotta do that in the practice room. Really, we can't make the practice room about how good we sound. We really need to evaluate our weaknesses and say, you know what, I'm in the practice room. I like how I sound. That should not be the goal of our practicing. It should be, it's in the practice room where we're trying to say, you know what, let me try this in another key. So like when I try chord progression that I like, I'm saying, okay, how would I do this in the next key? And it's slow. You see what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of ego involved with that. You know what I'm saying? With what Corey's saying, that because we really, musicians, we do tend to have kind of sensitive ego. So and that's the reason why this transpose issue is so hot. You see what I'm saying? Because people, they think you're personally attacking them. Yeah. And just to tell everybody, we're not attacking anybody. We're laying the arguments out there, but we're not actually personally attacking anybody. You know what I'm saying? So
along that note, one of the emails I get a lot too is, I've been transposing in a particular key for 5 years, 10 years. So they've learned all their advanced licks and chords and progressions. Mm-hmm. And then they say, how do I learn all the remaining keys? And I say, you're going to have to go right back. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to be able to just translate all that knowledge that you've learned in one single key into the 11 other keys. You're going to have to go back and sort of figure out triads and inversions first. Then you start to add the seventh. I mean, it's not going to take you as long as someone who has to do all of that from scratch in all 12 keys. Right. It's just learning the patterns for the other keys. So what would you advise for guys, who have been transposing for years, who want to stop? They want to kick the bucket from that addiction. What would you recommend? How do they do it from a practical way?
I would say make your fundamentals a regular part of your practice schedule. I think sometimes the misconception is that once you arrive, you don't work on that stuff anymore because we're always in the chase of learning something new, but we don't ever talk about maintaining where you are. Like you have to maintain that level. For me, I practice the scales every day and basic triads. All of us do crazy stuff. I don't know your guys' practice schedule, but I don't really play a lot of that fancy stuff in my practice. I use a metronome and just work on the fundamentals because the language of music is with the fundamentals, So I would say, change your mindset on the journey of becoming better as a musician, maintain, where you are. Hope I make sense with that.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
There's a saying I heard once that becoming a master at anything requires you to first become a master at the fundamentals. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of guys who say, hey, man, I want to get to advance. I want to be able to play like you. And I say, just focus on the fundamentals. Mm-hmm. If you look at all the players who play really well, they're really good at the fundamental stuff. Mm-hmm. So when someone email me, hey, how do I learn passing chords and licks and stuff? And then I'll respond with questions. Can you play all your 12 major scales? Can you play basic triads in all 12 keys, like progressions? Mm. Can you play basic 7th chords in all 12 keys? And they come back, nope. I'm like, you ain't ready for passing chords yet. Because you first have to be able to understand how to play within a key, because passing chords mean you're going outside the key and back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so if you don't understand how to function within the key yet, then once we start going outside the key with tonicization and reharms, then you're not going to see the connection. Mm-hmm. And if you don't see the connection, you're not going to understand the concept.
Mm-hmm. I hit this issue of transposing twice over the past, I think, month. And the second time I hit it, it was from the standpoint of not bashing, but to kind of give you some practical solutions. And so one of the things I did during that live stream was I took live calls. And so I had people calling in from literally all across the globe, giving suggestions. And so some of the best ones we had, there was this lady from the UK named Libby. She called in and she said that she used to transpose. And one of the things she did to help get out of that was use shapes. And so meaning certain keys, the way you move your hand in that key is very, very similar to the way you move your hand in another key. Like, for instance, the key of C and the key of F. If I want to do like 1, 5, 1 in those keys, just basic triads, it's the exact same motion. So all I have to do, learn it in this key and then just move my arm over and do the same thing. And so she said she started doing that and noticed keys were similar, and she was able to learn her 12 keys by shapes. Another guy, Keith from Atlanta, he said if he learned the song in, say for instance, A flat, then he'll also learn it in A or G. A and G, kind of learn the keys around it. So the shapes aren't too far apart. They're kind of similar, but you just kind of move, you can kind of slide up into it and say, oh, that's the shape. And then a third suggestion was just to take a simple songs. This is one I gave, like a song like, the song, No Weapon Formed Against Me. And it's just walking down the scale.
All the way down
it's a great song to practice in every key. to give you fundamentals, or how great is our God. That's another great one.
Yeah. For sure.
So
yeah. Pretty cool. You guys have any other thoughts?
I think when you practice,
go ahead,
man. When you're practicing the scales, learn them with the circle of fifths, like Corey was basically saying, because they each, when you move in the circle of fifths, the notes change by one note. Like, and a lot of the chords share the same. A lot of the scales share the same chords. Like if you're in the key of C and you move up to the key of G, there's pretty much like this one note difference. So it'll be if you know C, you already know G. Just a matter of just now once you're in G, getting your hands down, getting your hands comfortable with that key, and then once you get G, then you move to D, and you'll realize like, okay, these scales share the same chords.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me bring up. Yeah. Let me bring up another issue too that I heard from. I don't know if you guys know Peter Martin.
Mm-hmm.
His jazz channel. He's a really dope guy. But something that we don't think of, and I touched on it from an ear perspective when I did my video, and that is that different chords sound different sonically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In different positions of the keyboard.
Yep.
And it's not a matter of, because a chord that sounds good in one shape, in one key, may not sound good down. Mm-hmm. The same reason that we're not supposed to just press the transpose button down is the same reason we can't also do that with our hands and just shift down with our hands either. Right. Because it may not give the same sound. It may sound muddy, mm-hmm. having a bunch of notes crammed in between middle C and the 2 octaves lower. So what practicing in a circle of fifths actually does to an addendum to Daquan's point, it actually forces you to have to re-chord some of these mm-hmm. Chords.
Yeah.
Because the chords may not sound, the chords are going to sound different. And now you have to really think about truly knowing your chords, knowing the fundamentals. And I'm just going to, what everybody else is saying, I feel like we're on the same page in terms of that. And I was going to add to that scales, to your last question on Warren. Yeah. For me, scales do so much. It teaches you so much. Scales isn't just about hand warm-ups. It's teaching you the layout of a key. Mm-hmm. You want to have that layout so memorized that you're not thinking of what notes are sharp and flat and A flat, because it's just automatic. But if you're not practicing your scales, you don't know it. You shouldn't be thinking about that.
You're not seeing that pattern.
Go ahead.
I tell my students, if you can see it, you can play it.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, that's to, addition to your point, Sean, that's one, if you can see it, you can play it, and you're not thinking about the scale, and that allows your mind to be open, or your mental CPU, if you want to call it that, be available to do other things,
Yeah. And to give the specific. No, go ahead, Corey.
I was just saying, I call it seeing in a key, just the same concept, being able to see into a key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because guys, listen, like, I mean, if a song requires a chord that's in first inversion in D flat, in G, it may have to be in second inversion. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? In order for the chord to make sense.
Yeah.
So this is why I feel like having an understanding of the types of chords, forming dominant chords, knowing how to form a major and minor triad in every key. These are the fundamentals that I think everybody, if you know it, then you'll be playing in no time just by learning the fundamentals. Take a year. I would say take a year if you don't know it, to just review over everything. And you look back at that year and it'll be the best year you ever had. Just go buy all the Warren stuff. I'll just say this now. Go buy Warren materials and go over to Corey's stuff. Go buy his stuff. Okay, then go and buy Daquan stuff. Okay, and then you can end up over by me, and you look back at that year, and you be like, "Man, this is the greatest year."
Yeah, that's so cool. Just to touch on,
I ever had, man.
Just to touch on the topic that you reiterate, Sean. You guys all probably hear comments from your viewers that say, "Hey, man, I like your touch. I like your touch, or I like your playing. But one of the things that we do at this level, because we're key proficient, we play in all 12 keys, is we start making decisions based on voicing. And that's one of the things that you're taking away from your growth when you use a transpose button. Because as what Sean says, when you're playing a song in C, and then we decide to move that song to F sharp, the entire voicing spectrum changes. Because we're changing the voicing to make sure that the song sounds good in F sharp. So we have to change the voicing that we use in C. And so at this level, these are the things we're listening for and making decision from a sonic perspective. So when you see us play and you go, ooh, that sounds good. It's not a matter of, we just decide to use a D7 sharp 9 there. We decide to use that chord with that particular voicing because of the sound that it makes, the inflection that it gives. So when you're at that level, these are the decisions we make why one player has a different sound from the other. So when you use the transpose button, you're just playing everything in the key of C or everything in the key of F sharp, you're missing out on that sonic perspective of how things will sound in various keys. And that's why when even you change the key of certain songs, it just doesn't sound the same anymore.
Yeah.
Well, Corey, let me ask Corey a question. Corey, what'd you think about that comment about 12 keys relating it to 12 children and them being each different? Did you agree? Because I remember you commented on it. I think you, Warren, and Daquan, y'all all commented on that last video. What did you think about that last statement we made about, the 12 keys being like 12 children, how they're all different, even though they're brothers and sisters? Like, did you agree with that, or what'd you think?
Yeah, I use a similar analogy. My analogy is a big mansion with 12 rooms.
Okay, that's cool.
And also there are secret passages between the rooms. So I kind of use that kind of analogy.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah, but I wanted to add to the conversation a little bit. I was thinking about what are the reasons why people transpose. Like if I had to boil it all down, and I came up with 3 answers. And there might be other reasons that you can possibly think of, but they all deal with mindset, and I just kind of want to talk about that for a moment. The first reason is fear. The second one is comfort, and then the last one is convenience. And comfort and convenience are close, but not exactly the same, but they're close. But the first one is that I discovered was fear. Whether it's I'm afraid of sounding bad. For me, fear manifested a little bit differently. Mine wasn't with transposing. It was with learning new stuff, because here was the problem. I was starting off and I learned something in one key, not one key, but I learned something, whatever that thing was, and it transformed my playing. And then the thought of learning another thing that I had to go back and transform my playing again was deflating. And I was just like, I don't want to go through that process. I remember, here's the prime example, tritones. There was a time when the word tritones really became popular in gospel, and everybody was talking about tritones. And I was like, I'm not learning tritones. Not learning it. Because every time I learned something new, I had to relearn how I played the piano, and it was frustrating. I'm fine the way I play. But then when I finally decided to tackle it, it was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I let fear run me? And so I can unequivocally say without a doubt that every time I've let fear run me and make the decision for me, it's never worked out well. But every time I faced that fear head on and said, let's go do it, at the end of it, I look back and I should have did this sooner. Why didn't I? Man, everybody, don't do what I did. Just come on, do it. Because from this side, it's so much better. That's the fear thing. And I don't know if y'all want to comment too. I'm not trying to take over.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. I think a lot of musicians, we cared way too much of the opinions of other musicians. I think that to go with your fear, and we don't want to look bad. I think it's also the culture in which we live in. the Instagram culture. Everybody's putting up their best take, their highlights, and not really showing the 90th million take you took
and deleted.
You know what I'm saying? So I think people there's a disconnect between that. So, and a lot of people don't show that, don't speak up about that stuff like we are right now.
A comment a guy made, I think by email to me once, when I tell him about, the importance of learning all 12 keys. And he says, well, I've been playing in my church. I'm the musician for my church, and I've been using transpose button all this time. I can only play in the key of F sharp. And he says, if I stop using transpose button, I'm going to sound beginner again, and everybody's going to look at me different. And so right there, the ego, the fact that each time you play this nice chord, and they give you the stank face, like, ooh, he be getting that every Sunday. Now, if he stopped using the transpose and not to go back to triads in the other keys, he's not going to get that same sort of affirmation. So, what would you guys say to a person like that?
I would say, consider how embarrassed you will be if you are in a situation where you do not have your keyboard and everybody is expecting that same level. Just consider the alternate. Okay, you care about okay, let's make the argument that ego is important. Well, I mean, you will have a real bad problem now, because the higher you go and the better you sound in that one key that you've been transposing, the higher expectations. People now, their expectations of you are real high. Now, if you had just kept at your beginner self, you could have made some mistakes and people would have been like, oh yeah, he's growing. But we want to sound so good. So now that's life, man. You know what I'm saying? But remember, it's like crutches, man. Like I told you before. I mean, you don't, I do feel like we should give yourself time to, like, if you are right now in the middle of a situation. I don't want someone come across this video and then all of a sudden they refuse to transpose and they get fired because they couldn't play the song. So, don't be coming in and saying we did, because but the idea is that crutches are still crutches. And I made a comment on my YouTube video, I said, it's still a crutch, even if you have to use it to walk. You understand? It's still a crutch. The goal should be, I feel like it's personal. You have to personally want to do better. And until you make that decision, you're going to defend transposing to your dying day, because you don't want to grow. And I think that's the problem that I think all of us as music creators have, is people wanting the most thing for the littlest work, right? Yeah. That's what it is. We don't want to work. We just want the fancy chords, but we really don't want to do the work involved. And what people need to understand is that the process of doing the work is what's going to get you what you want. You understand what I'm saying? It's that process that'll get you there. So I just want to encourage everybody to just kind of remember that process, but be easy on yourself. If you can't play in every key, just start off small. Start off with an easy song, and go to something more difficult. Don't just start off with a difficult song trying to do it like that. Start off with something easy and then work your way through the keys that way.
Enjoy the journey, and remember that all of us, we all been scrubs at some point. The worst person in the room, and even the people we look up to, some of the greatest musicians that we think are around today, they all was that dude who only played, who could play Mary Had a Little Lamb, and that was it. So if you just understand that, it's a journey, it's a process, then I think that'll help you out and be more at ease and content with where you are in the moment.
Fully agree, man. Go ahead.
The first decision, as everybody else has said, starts here. If you don't want to change, or you don't want to get out of transposing, like the issue is, I hesitate to use this example because I don't want to sound crass, but I'll use it anyways. And don't beat me up. I don't mean it that way, but kind of like a drug addiction and trying to get out of it, in this way, because for the drug addict, and I, like I said, I hate to use the example, but follow. Just suspend your outrage for a moment.
Warren's gonna have some great titles for YouTube, man. For this
How to kick the transpose addiction.
like any drug, like when you decide, the part of the reason that keeps you in it is because of the fear of withdrawal. Like I want, even when you kind of want to get out of it, like the fear of withdrawal, like I got to go through this pain to finally get rid of it and walk free of it. And the same thing with transpose. You've been learning it, and I had students just a week or two ago reach out to me, Corey. Everybody expects me to play at a certain level. They know my key is D flat. I play in this key, and everybody expects me to play at that level. How do I? And if they call me and I'm not that guy, then, what do I do? And it's like, well, you have to make the decision that that the pain that you'll go through during the journey is worth it for what you get on the other side, which is this ability to be free and know more and grow in your growth and in your ability. But the pain of withdrawal is a real deal, and we just got to be willing to overcome it.
Seems like you've been running some AA meeting, Corey.
Well, you saw the title of my last like how to overcome intervention. I called it the Transpose intervention.
Yeah, but that's a very important point you make right there. And one of the key factors that I think some of the transpose folks are missing is preparation. Yeah, you might be crushing it in D flat and you might be using the transpose button. All right, that's all right. But what you're going to do going forward, you're not just going to get up one day and just never use a transpose button. That's not what we're saying. We're saying now that you're conscious and aware of what this is doing to you, how it's holding you back, you have to start to make not only a mental preparation, but you have to start slowly learning the other keys, even while you might still be using transpose on Sundays. Start to put in the work so that 3 months from now, you can finally stop using the transpose button. But if you just continue to say, well, every time I get called, I got to use that transpose button so I can play D flat, and you're not doing anything else throughout the week to prepare yourself so you can eventually stop using that button, then you're going to forever depend on the transpose button.
I have a concept. That just came to me. Maybe reverse transposing. So in your practice time. So if you're still going to do it, maybe at home, if you played a song if you're trying to play a song that's in the key of E, let me make sure I have this right in my mind. When people transpose, they usually bring the weaker keys to that stronger key. But in your practice time, practicing your weaker keys and transpose it to the key that you are good in. So if the song is in B flat, I'm going to transpose my keyboard to make A sound like B flat in my practice time, so you can develop your chops in A. It makes sense?
Well, I kind of get what you're saying.
I know, we don't transpose, so
reverse transposing. That's interesting.
That was actually, Daquan, I was going to bring that point up. That was actually something I started trying to do.
Yeah.
But then, and I think it's a great idea. Like if the song's in E flat, transpose, your keyboard down to A, and work it out there. But then. I had two things. One was technology. Like there's some software now that'll transpose the song down for you, so you don't have to transpose your keyboard. You can just use the software to transpose the song down. So that was one of the things. This is a technology thing. And then the other one is sonically, like we talked about before. But I think if transpose is a tool, then that's one way you can keep it as a tool. So
not a crutch.
So my point is, I know this advanced player who does that in church, because a lot of the gospel songs are in the black keys, and he doesn't get a chance to play in the white keys. Like he can still play in them, but in church, if they're doing a congregational tune in B flat, he'll bring it down to A just so he can stay sharp in A, because
so he's creating. Okay, I get what you're saying. So he's creating more sort of work for himself, pushing himself harder.
Yeah.
By just it's in the key that I'm fluent in. How about I put it in the key I'm not fluent in? Putting pressure on myself. I see that.
I mean, even though I agree with it in principle, but because of the way that I came across it in terms of in my video, in terms of the ear, which the channel heavily focuses on ear, I wouldn't do it only because now the layout of where I'm still hearing something. It's still messing up my tonal memory and pitch recognition. So I wouldn't, but I do think it's a good idea. I like Corey's alternate suggestion, though, that you could transpose the song down and still get that. But yeah, I think Daquan has an interesting concept that I could explore.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Really, man, that's a good one. Because we all have videos, I think, on our own channels on transposing. So maybe Daquan.
Well, I did a video. I did a video. It was a while back. I said I transpose and you should too.
Oh, really?
I got lit up in the comments. But people just took the title and went with it. But I said, what I was trying to tell them was, if I'm playing in C, I'm going to manually transpose.
Oh, yeah. I saw that video. That was a good video, though.
Yeah,
that was a good video. That was dope. That was a dope video.
Some people, you on YouTube, people just read the title
and go straight to the comments.
Yeah, and that's
they don't listen.
The engagement was high. I mean, it helped my channel. It helped me in that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, this was a very interesting discussion. I must admit that, some of my biases on the transpose button changed a little bit, just after hearing a different perspective. Because like I said, I've been a firm fire on the transpose button. No exception, nothing, no transpose. But, you guys definitely opened up my perspective to see some other possibilities where, someone using the transpose button might want to use that in certain circumstances, But overall, I believe what we're all saying is that if you find yourself in this situation, you didn't know, you've been using this thing as a crutch opposed to just as a tool, these are some practical ways you can get out of it. Because in the reality is, if you're an active musician, or you're up and coming musician, you will get to the level where you will have to play various keyboards. Some might not have any form of transpose button. And if you build a certain status for yourself, an expectation by using the transpose button, once the veil falls, everything is going to be revealed and you're going to be significantly embarrassed. So to save yourself that embarrassment, just make sure that you want to do better for yourself. And doing better means try to learn all keys. Try to learn all your chords in all keys. Not every lick and line is going to be able to be transferable just because of the shape of each key. Certain licks are going to be more easier to execute in some keys. So you don't need to transpose every single lick. I always say most of my licks are key specific. If I'm learning a certain song in a certain key, I'll come up with certain licks that just work nicely for that key and that chord. Trying to transpose that same lick to certain chords, it don't work because the entire layout now changes. So, just do what you can and gradually learn the keys. Eventually, this whole key thing will be a distant memory when you start to focus on more advanced concept. All right, one last tip from each of you guys, and then we can call it a day. Any last tip?
Just learn the songs in the key that they're recorded in.
That's what I always say. Just learn the song in each key. Sean?
I think you guys have said it all, man.
Okay.
You guys have said it all.
Anything, Corey?
Ditto.
Just make your mind up and stick with it.
Make your mind up. All right, fellas. Well, this was a great session, man. I want to thank these guys for coming on. I didn't think everybody would have been available, but here we are today. I believe this is the first time all of us, 4 different channels, come together to present something for you guys. So Trust this was enlightening for you. I want you guys to do some things. See, all the 4 of us here, make sure you go hit the subscribe button and the like button of all these channels. You will see links to each of these channels in the description. We all have sort of different styles and different things we present. And so you guys are getting a great opportunity to learn from 4 different guys with 4 different backgrounds, you know, different areas and focus and techniques. So you can learn everything you need about playing that ear from all of us. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check the link in the description for each of these channels. Go subscribe and like so you can learn from these guys, you know? And as we say in Piano Lessons with Warren, keep listening, keep singing, keep practicing. What skilled musicians, what's your thing again?
Be blessed and happy practicing.
Sean? Sean's spacing out.
Go work on your ear.
And Daquan, what you got?
See you in the next video.
All right. Well, y'all, thanks for joining us and catch you soon.